It's 7:30 in the evening across India, live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Global, bringing you the day's big stories from across India and the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, and joining me is my colleague Benji Hire from Washington, D.C. Benji, how are you today?
Very good morning. 9 a.m. here in Washington, D.C. That means 2 in the afternoon across 3 in the afternoon, I should say, across much of Central Europe. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, a blow to UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, his party losing 2 elections overnight, and Israel raids a hospital in southern Gaza, saying it's captured terrorists. Hamas calls those claims lies. All that coming up after the main stories with you.
India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar at Munich Security Conference in Germany meets leaders from the UK, Peru and Bulgaria on the sidelines. In a boost to US, India, Australia, Japan Quad alliance, United States House of Representatives passes the Quad bill for closer cooperation between member countries. Russia's opposition leader Alexei Navalny dies in prison. World leaders express shock. Jailed Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny is dead. The prison service of Yamalo-Nenets region, where he had been serving his sentence, has informed on Friday. In a statement published on its website, the Federal Penitentiary Service of the Autonomous District Prison said that Navalny felt unwell after a walk on Friday and almost immediately lost consciousness. It said that medical staff had been called, but that they were unable to resuscitate Navalny. It said that the reason of death was being established. Russia's investigative committee has launched a procedural probe into the death of opposition leader Alexei Navalny in a penal colony. And DD India's Dasha Chernyshova joins us live from Moscow. Dasha, what updates and reactions are you tracking on Alexei Navalny's death? Any word from the Kremlin?
Well, indeed, we are following all the latest developments, and the Kremlin has confirmed that the authorities and the prison authorities are doing everything possible to establish the cause of Alexei Navalny's death in the penal colony on the Arctic Circle. Now, we understand from the statements that the paramedics arrived at the scene at the penal colony in the Yamalo-Nenetsky Autonomous District as soon as they got the call from the prison. The paramedics have been working for 30 minutes trying to revive Alexei Navalny, who lost consciousness after a walk, but they couldn't do everything, and they have confirmed Alexei Navalny's death right after. Now, we also are hearing from the Kremlin that this special commission has been set up to investigate all the details and the circumstance of what happened on Friday, the 16th of February. So there is no conclusion as to what has been the cause of Alexei Navalny's death. But immediately after the announcement was made, we've heard the Western politicians all saying that it was a very sad development for the Russian politics, a very sad development of the day, suggesting that the Russian authorities could be behind what happened to Alexei Navalny. In response to that, the Russian Foreign Ministry's spokesperson Maria Zakharova said that these comments made before the paramedical expertise are only proving to be self-expository for the Western politicians who, according to the Russian Foreign Minister's spokesperson, actually benefit from this death. We also understand that the establishment of the cause of Alexei Navalny's death will take some time, but certainly the paramedics will be establishing that cause, and that will be very important for both the Russian authorities as well as the supporters of Alexei Navalny, who said that he was actually quite well on Wednesday when his lawyer visited him in this prison, and also on Thursday when Alexei Navalny made his last public appearance, appearing in the video link hearing when he was making his case against the penal colony in the Vladimir region.
And Dasha, being one of the most recognizable faces from the Russian opposition, what does Navalny's death mean for Russian politics?
Well, certainly when you look at the sequence of the events, it is a very important development because on the 24th of February, Russia will see the second anniversary of the start of what Moscow calls its special military operation in Ukraine. And in March, the Russian public will go to the polling stations to elect a new president. So certainly the sequence of events is very important here. But if you look at the comments made by the political experts, they do suggest that it doesn't change much to the political spectrum inside the Russian Federation because one way or another, Alexei Navalny has been serving a very lengthy prison term and his organization has been outlawed. It has been described and deemed as extremist and terrorist. So it was not functioning inside Russia. All of his supporters, his team have been exiled. They are abroad at the moment. So certainly it doesn't change the political spectrum inside the in the Russian territory, according to the political experts. But at the same time, obviously, the suggestion by the political experts is that it doesn't benefit the Russian authorities either, because Alexei Navalny was not posing a real challenge to the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, whom he has been criticizing a lot while he was free.
Dasha, thank you for those updates from Moscow. India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, on Friday began his engagements on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference in Munich, Germany, by meeting United Kingdom Foreign Secretary David Cameron. In the meeting, the minister and his UK counterpart discussed India-UK bilateral cooperation and global and regional issues. Besides, India's External Affairs Minister, S. Jaishankar, also met with Peru Foreign Minister Javier Gonzalez Olejea and spoke about the significant reforms in United Nations and India-Peru economic cooperation. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar also met Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Bulgaria, Gabriel Maria, on the sidelines of Munich Security Conference 2024. The leaders discussed growing bilateral relationship between the two countries and welcomed Bulgaria's decision to join the International Solar Alliance led by India. Furthermore, Russia-Ukraine conflict was also discussed. And Munich Security Conference is the premier forum to deliberate global security issues. Benji Hire, it's in Washington, D.C., gets us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Benji, with at least two major conflicts going on across the world, there's much to work and discuss for the leaders.
Quite so. The 60th Munich Security Conference getting underway in southern Germany and plenty to discuss, as you say. This year's conference being held under the chairmanship of the German ambassador to the United States, and it will be a summit dominated by, as you were insinuating, the wars in Ukraine and Israel, as well as some fears over US commitment to defending its allies. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, US Vice President Kamala Harris and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky are among the top officials attending the conference. Well, for more on this, we're joined by DD India's Trent Murray live from Munich. Good afternoon to you, Trent. We've seen some images of India's Minister of External Affairs, Jaishankar, meeting with some counterparts, Foreign Minister for the UK, David Cameron, for example. What are ministers hoping to achieve bilaterally, but also in terms of these other major points of discussion, for example, the war in Ukraine? Trent, hopefully you can hear me now, live for us from the Munich Security Conference. Good afternoon to you. We were seeing some images of India's Minister for External Affairs, Jaishankar, meeting with his counterparts, for example, the UK's Foreign Minister, David Cameron. What are ministers there hoping to achieve bilaterally, and also when it comes to some of the major challenges that they're discussing, such as the war in Ukraine?
Well, we know that President Zelensky will be attending this conference where he's once again expected to put out the call to the West, to Europe and to America to continue providing support both militarily and financially to his country to try and repel that Russian invasion. And it certainly is one of the main issues which is really hanging over this security conference. Of course, it comes just days after Lord Cameron of the United Kingdom called on allies in the US to unlock that crucial funding which has been caught up on Capitol Hill, political wrangling there holding up the purse strings, if you will. The Europeans will point to the fact that they have just signed off on close to $50 billion in military funding and say the Americans now also need to put their money where their mouth is. But I think the broader issue right now is also just concern in Europe about whether Washington is still with them. We've heard those comments by the Republican presumed nominee, Donald Trump, former president, who has suggested that he would be open to Russia attacking NATO countries that don't pay their dues to NATO. That has been met with shockwaves and real concern here, and we know that that is an issue that's being addressed right now as we go to where with the Vice President Kamala Harris speaking to those conference goers inside the venue.
And the situation in Gaza is also front and centre of these discussions.
It certainly is, and we know there is, again, trepidation and concern, if you will, around what Israel is doing in Gaza, particularly when it comes to Rafah, that last kind of city in the south of the Gaza Strip where we are being told Israel is preparing to move in. Certainly concern from Europe around what that could look like in terms of humanitarian disaster and the civilian death toll continuing to climb. I should mention there is a very large contingent of Middle Eastern leaders and representatives here, foreign ministers from Qatar, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and they are looking to try and use this conference as an opportunity to call on the West to put pressure on Israel just to sort of pull back from its military operation within Gaza. Certainly the signals from Tel Aviv are that they are in no position to be doing that anytime soon. We will hear from the Israeli President Isaac Herzog later in this conference, where we expect once again he will continue to push for the case for Israel wanting to try and meet its three goals in Gaza, which of course include demilitarizing the Gaza Strip, making sure it can never attack Israel again, and also de-radicalizing the population there. Benji.
Trent, thank you. Trent Murray for us live in Munich. Let's stay with the Munich Security Conference, where Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, in his address, said that no NATO ally was in any military threat. He assured their security with preparedness and increased spending on defence. Take a listen.
There is no imminent military threat against any NATO ally. NATO continues to ensure there is no room for miscalculation in Moscow about our readiness to protect all allies. With more forces, higher readiness and increased defence spending.
Let's stay in Germany, where Chancellor Olaf Scholz and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky signed a security agreement at a ceremony in the German capital. The details of that agreement were not immediately made public. Zelensky's visiting Germany and France to drum up support for more military aid for his war-torn country as the conflict with Russia nears its third year. Ukraine faces a shortage of manpower and ammunition stockpiles, whilst US military aid has been delayed for months as a bill in Congress remains stalled. Germany and France were poised to become the second and third Ukrainian allies to sign bilateral security deals that would establish terms for continued support for Ukraine to reach its goal of joining the NATO military alliance. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak suffered two heavy blows to his leadership ahead of a general election later this year, as the opposition Labour Party overturned strong Conservative majorities to win by-elections in England on Friday. Labour's Dan Egan won the House of Commons seat of Kingswood, southwest of the country, and the party's Jen Kitchen won Willingborough, that's in the East Midlands region of England. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said that these twin defeats for his party show that they had more work to do ahead of an expected national vote later this year.
Midterm by-elections are always difficult for incumbent governments, and the circumstances of these by-elections were, of course, particularly challenging. Now, I think if you look at the results, very low turnout, and it shows that we've got work to do to show people that we are delivering on their priorities, and that's what I'm absolutely determined to do, but also shows that there isn't a huge amount of enthusiasm for the alternative in Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, and that's because they don't have a plan, and if you don't have a plan, you can't deliver real change, and when the general election comes, that's the message I'll be making to the country. Stick with our plan, because it is starting to deliver the change that the country wants and needs.
Where they break down of what this means going forward, DD India's Stuart Smith reports from London.
It's a historic moment. It's the largest ever drop in Conservative vote share at a by-election ever. The swing of 28% in one of those constituencies from the Conservatives to Labour is the second largest swing of all time. And that means this Conservative government has lost more seats in by-elections than any government since the 1960s. That's despite earlier in the week fresh anti-Semitism claims amongst the Labour Party, and also with Keir Starmer, the opposition party leader, dropping a pledge of £28 billion for the environment, something those on the left of his party are particularly frustrated about, never mind the ongoing debate about to what degree the UK should be supporting Israel in its attack in Gaza. This year's upcoming election reform says that the country needs a complete 180-degree handbrake turn, and now it seems the Conservatives will be fighting the next general election on two fronts, both to the left Labour and to the right the Reform Party. And with that, interestingly, if Kingswood, one of these constituencies, if the voters that voted Reform had instead voted for the Conservative Party, Labour would have lost, which underlines the challenge that the Conservative Party will face and the potential for massive gains for a rather new party in British politics, the Reform Party.
Stuart Smith in London. We were hearing earlier about the ongoing war in Gaza, while Israel's military claims it's captured dozens of terror suspects during a raid on a southern Gaza hospital. Staff and patients there forcing to flee under gunfire. Nasser Hospital, that's in Khan Yunis, is in a catastrophic state, according to its director, with civilian casualties. No Israeli hostages were found as part of this operation. A boost to US, India, Australia, Japan. The Quad Alliance, as it's known, as the US House of Representatives in Congress passes a bill which instructs the Biden administration to establish a Quad intra-parliamentary working group that would facilitate closer cooperation between the member countries. It was passed by a roll call vote, 379 to 39 votes. The bill, officially called the Strengthen US, Australia, India, Japan Cooperation, directs the US State Department to submit a roadmap to increase engagement with Quad members. It directs the State Department to submit to Congress within 180 days of the bill's enactment a strategy to increase engagement and cooperation with the Quad, and within 60 days to enter into negotiations with Japan, Australia and India to establish an intra-parliamentary working group to again facilitate closer cooperation. A bipartisan US congressional delegation will visit Hungary on Sunday as pressure grows on Budapest to ratify Sweden's NATO membership. Hungary is the only NATO country who has not yet ratified Sweden's application. Sweden applied to join the Defence Alliance in May of 2022. The bid could be ratified when Parliament reconvenes in late February. Sweden's foreign minister says on Wednesday that he expects Hungary to approve the application soon. And a New York state judge is expected to make a ruling on Friday in a $370 million civil fraud case against former US President Donald Trump. Mr. Trump's accused of inflating his net worth to secure better loan terms. The ruling comes, or would come, after a 3-month trial in Manhattan. Trump, who's vying for the Oval Office again, of course, could be hit with millions of dollars in penalties and other sanctions in the decision by the judge. He denies any wrongdoing, calling this case a political vendetta. While Donald Trump also facing many more criminal trials in the weeks and months ahead. We'll have all the updates for you live on DD India. For now, though, that's it from me here in Washington. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Benji. Have a nice day ahead. And we're heading for a short break, but still to come on DD India Global. Greece Parliament has approved a bill allowing same-sex civil marriage. And teddy bear in action to catch a drug dealer in Peru.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibilities. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday, 8 p.m. only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Global. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Senegal's top court declared the delay in presidential election as unconstitutional. The Constitutional Council nullified both President Macky Sall's decree and a contentious bill passed by Parliament, moving the vote to December. Several unrest have grappled the West African country that was once considered one of the most democratic nations in the region. Opposition figures said it will result to a constitutional coup. Greece's parliament has approved a bill allowing same-sex civil marriage. The bill is being hailed as landmark victory for supporters of the LGBT rights. The law gives same-sex couples the right to wed and adopt children. This comes after decades of campaigning by the LGBT community for marriage equality in the socially conservative country. Greece is one of the first Orthodox Christian countries to allow such unions. The bill was approved by 176 lawmakers in the 300-seat parliament, will become law when it's published in the official government gazette.
Κυρίες και κύριοι συνάδελφοι, ψήφισαν συνολικά 254 βουλευτές. Επί της αρχής του σχεδίου νόμου ψήφισαν ναι 176, όχι 76, παρών 2.
Back home, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Rewari in the Indian state of Haryana. During the event, PM inaugurated multiple development projects worth over $1.1 billion, including urban transport, health, rail and tourism sector. Prime Minister Modi also laid the foundation stone of Gurugram Metro Rail project worth about $656 million. He also laid foundation stone of All India Institute of Medical Sciences, AIIMS in Haryana, under Pradhan Mantri Swasthya Suraksha Yojana. Also, he inaugurated a newly built experiential museum in Kurukshetra built at a cost of over $30 million. Prime Minister also flagged off train service in Rohtak Meham-Hasi section, which will improve rail connectivity in Rohtak and Hisar region, benefiting passengers. Earlier, PM Modi visited an exhibition at the venue. Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated multiple development projects worth over $2 billion in the western state of Rajasthan as well. He addressed Viksit Bharat, Viksit Rajasthan program via video conferencing. He inaugurated various national highways projects worth over $600 million, 8 rail projects of the state worth over $277 million. Prime Minister also laid foundation stone of solar projects worth around $638 million and other multiple projects over $289 million under Jal Jeevan Mission. PM said these development projects are going to provide employment to the youth of Rajasthan. Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. Security guards from South Korea's presidential office on Friday removed a man who was heckling when President Yoon Suk-yeol was making a speech at Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. The presidential office said in a statement that the security guards were acting within the law. Ski resorts in some parts of Switzerland's capital Bern is suffering from lack of snow. Huge swaths of green mountainside, persistent warm weather and slushy runs at medium and low altitudes have been a cause of concern for skiers and Swiss resort officials. The Peruvian police gave their own twist to the Valentine's Day season with a drug bust. An agent disguised as a teddy bear raided a house allegedly storing illegal substances. The teddy agent waited for the suspect outside her house with a heart-shaped balloon and a sign with the message of love. And here's what went down. That's all for this edition of DD India Global. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also find us online at ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Global. Namaskar.